you log into this?
What?
To the live? I'm trying to start this. Here, we're live now. So I want you to go onto the Instagram. And onto the YouTube. How you doing, Phil? We're just going through and just getting lined up. Just going through, got ourselves up here on Instagram. Okay, we got ourselves live on Instagram and live on YouTube. We'll just give people a couple minutes to get started. I have someone that'll be able to see you talking shit or asking questions so I can respond to them. What we are going to be doing is the Mops for Pups or Muscle Up Challenge to support the work that my brother down in Mexico, Ruelas, does with the street dogs. I am just taping up my wrists so I don't wind up ripping them up and looking like I have stigmata. So we're just doing that. I'm going to be using a EMON format, so I will do one every minute on the minute. I will be pulling from the floor because that's what I have the height for. I will be drinking water. I front loaded with pre-workout, and then I have a couple hammer gels here that I got from Tom over at Extreme Line Supplements in Sherwood Park. Shout out to them. So just going through and doing that. In a couple minutes, we will get started. If anyone's looking to go through and kind of support what Carlos is doing, all the proceeds go for this are going to go to the work he does down there. You can get free programs so you can learn how to do muscle up if you want to. There's also one for Regatta. If I can't break 100 today live, it means that you're going to get a free program. If you already signed up, there's a muscle up program and our soon to be released Enter the Gata, which is on how to use a mace bell. Mace bell is one of these. So for anyone watching this at home, if you're taping your hands, I'm not actually providing any support in this case. I am just going through and making sure my skin doesn't rip off. So I don't need to have this be really tight. I want to make sure I still have mobility in my wrists for this. Big thing is that I'm just coming down and protecting that skin. This is extra wide stick tape for your hockey stick. If you're Canadian, you know what that is. If you're not, it's just a generic athletic tape. It's smooth, it doesn't provide any additional grip, so there's no kind of cheating or funny business going on there. Full mobility in the wrists, as you can see. It's not kind of anything special, right? Just going through and protecting that contact point for the false grip. How many people do we have? Perfect. Okay. That chestnut cheering me on this pillow. We're going to put on a little liquid chalk here. So liquid chalk just provides a little bit of grip, but doesn't get quite as dusty. Although, if I'm honest with you, I kind of enjoy the ritual of chalking my hands regularly, but this is what we have right now. All right, we're going to switch this over. We'll get started. One muscle up every minute on the minute is a format that we're going to use. We'll have a stopwatch go in the back to keep us all honest. And like I said, feel free to talk shit or ask questions. I'll try to respond on in between. That's one. So the email format allows me to go through and fully recover my phosphate system. So good for doing explosive repeats or something like that from an athletic standpoint. It allows you to kind of go through and regain what you're doing each time. Two. So you can wind up using an EMON 1 minute every minute on the minute for your explosive repeats or bursts. Can be kettlebell snatches, something like that, where you're winding up being fairly explosive. Again, the goal is we're going to try to stay in that phosphate system the whole time. Three. So the biggest issue people face with muscle ups and what we address in our muscle up program is they don't have the strength in the false grip, so they're not very good in the support position, and they're weak in the top of the bottom position, and they're weak in the bottom of the top position where the transition happens. So right now I'm going through, because I'm going for volume and we're just doing kind of a burst over the bottom. I'm not able to kip. Part of the reason I'm pulling from the floor is to kind of keep them relatively strict. Four. So because a lot of people are weak in those positions, when they go through and try to work that transition, which is just the part that's unique about it, we wind up having an issue where we don't have the strength to hold ourselves and try to figure that out. Five. So why would you want to learn how to do a ring muscle up? Who really cares? So this false grip is the same as like a collar tie. So there's some advantages there. If you do a haka system or a close range kung fu system, you'll see these kind of like a fuck sao or something like that, where we're kind of controlling in this. We see that with hand fighting and wrestling. We see with Wing Chun, stuff like that. I think maybe even a bit in Mantis, but I'd have to ask Dave about that. Sorry, David, about that. So we have that kind of interesting position where we can pull and get used to pushing out of it. Six. The other thing is, you'll see when I'm doing this, I'm coming in, I'm pressing to that Bulgarian turnout. So as we pull and we get that press with the dips on that unstable kind of platform, we also have the stability that's required in our back. And then we can actually, as we screw out, wind up hitting the back even more. So John Russin talks a little bit about wanting to have that 2 or 3 pulls to every push, and the muscle up, especially on rings, really kind of gives us that. So we're learning some kind of intelligence with our strength, and it kind of works a lot like a complex. Seven. We also wind up seeing a fairly good work with that rotation, internal and external, as we're kind of coming in, turning, and pressing out. So a lot of times we talk about, stuff happening in the sagittal plane and a lack of working in the frontal plane, which is our side-to-side stabilization, as well as our bending and our transverse plane, so our rotation, right, with that X-sling system. So people start talking about that, and that's really trendy. What we don't really talk about is the supination, turning the palm up, and the pronation, turning the palm down, and we get that with this muscle up, with this turnout. Eight. So going through and being able to supinate and pronate, cup of soup, pro basketball player, when we get into, fighting or joint locking or even just what is functional strength, it's really my ability to be able to bend things to my will. And so we wind up having even a bit of ulnar and radial deviation that happens in that as a part of it. So there's a lot of things going on with this in the upper body especially. And then pay attention when I'm doing this next one, how I point my toes and achieve this hollow body position, which really lets us get that midline stability and a lot of nice core work. Nine. So then we go through, start getting into that pressing on an unstable platform. And for a lot of people, myself included, the first time I tried to support on a pair of rings or a set of rings, I would go through and I kind of start flopping like a fish. So we get a lot of really nice engagement in the stabilizers in the trunk, as well as we kind of get a little bit of all that little stuff, right? So higher engagement in the nervous system. Ten. When you're going through and trying to do something like this, where you're doing a longer EMON, there's things that you can do to, I don't want to say cheat, but things that will help you be successful for that longer duration. So being able to go through and sip on something that has some glucose in it, simple sugar, not chugging it. Electrolytes is another one. So we're just kind of replacing that. So that's Hydrolyte or Pedialyte, stuff like that. $11. So Hydrolyte, Pedialyte, things like that. Any type of electrolytes will go through and be useful. You just throw in some pinches of sea salt in, right? Will prevent the muscle cramping, and it also has a tendency to keep you more hydrated. If I were to go through and just start slamming water, I just go through and start flushing it out of my body real quick. So glucose is a big one. Creatine hydrochloride is a big one, which I wasn't smart enough to take today. It's just some stuff that kind of get you to stretch a little bit further. Having some branched chain amino acids and EAA is a nice blend, so that way you're able to start your repair and you're not having to wait till after your workout. $12. We're going to start talking about our fasting protein, whether it's your full spectrum amino blends like the amino 9, I believe it is, that my buddy Kev's doing over at Empower. So their full spectrum amino hits really fast. We want to make sure that we're not just nailing ourselves with tons of protein. We need to have somewhere between 2 and 4 grams of sugar, simple sugar, at the same time as that, because otherwise we just wind up converting those aminos and protein into really expensive glucose, and you wind up producing a lot of ammonia. So when people try to go through and do keto or Atkins poorly, that's typically what we wind up seeing. $13. The other thing is if you try to go through and replicate this, tape hand's a big one. Having a long sleeve rash guard, otherwise these straps will start to cut into your forearms and into your upper arm. Even with as scrawny as my arms are, it still happens. So just kind of be aware of that. Let me know if there's any questions or anything. $14. $15. So the other thing that really makes a big difference in your set to set, especially when I like this, is making sure you're getting a lot of your breaths in, big deep stuff. So that way we're able to bring the heart rate back down and we're not going to go lactic. We want to keep as much in our aerobic and our phosphate system as we can. We're essentially trying to just prevent ourselves from getting that pump. $16. $17. I've mentioned that D2A is doing a little bit of restructuring. We are changing how we're doing textiles. So we're blowing out all of our textiles. These shorts as an example, jeans, all that. It's all on at 50% off. We're doing that because we're going to be moving to a faster reacting model where we start doing limit drops and stuff like that. So if you're interested in getting anything we do, head over. We have sales bigger than Black Friday right now. And we got some really, really neat stuff kind of coming up for 2025. $18. Yeah, so we got some interesting stuff coming for 2025, doing some limit drops for clothing, whether that's limit drop t-shirts, We'll be going through and doing some jackets, stuff like that. All the same features we saw on the Squared Sport Coat. We'll be looking at integrating those, and you can expect to see them in all of our jackets. All the pants we do will all have the same features that our shorts did. It's like 24s I'm wearing, as well as the straight tube jeans. 19. 20. 1/5 of the way there. Hitting some of this hammer gel. Got that from Tom at Streamline. Thank you, Tom. $21. 22. 23. This is especially a lot of fun because I've had a lung infection for the last week. One of the advantages is sticking in the phosphate system. We get to go through the spike metabolism and actually get all this out. Makes it fun to dig deep, a little gut check. Four. $25. 1/4 of the way there. Yeah. Got enough.
Huh?
See ya. $26. I haven't used this particular liquid chalk before. This one is liquid or magnesium liquid chalk, and it's actually holding up really well. And it was relatively cheap. So I love that. $28. 29. So if anyone's looking to go through and donate, the thing that we got going on right now, we'll extend it, is if you go through and donate a certain amount, we go through and I'll send you either the Muscle Up program or the GATA program that we did. All the funds and everything go to Ruelas and what he's doing down there in Mexico with the dogs. And it's actually cheaper than if you bought the program from us. And then there's a little bit more and you get both programs. Again, you're getting them at a discount. And you support the dogs, which is cool. So we're just donating all those programs. And the link to do that is just in GoFundMe. It's the link is in our bio. We'll extend it for the next day or so. And I've seen firsthand the work that he's doing down there. And one of my great joys was seeing a pack of 7 or 8 dogs see us and see Carlos, and just all of a sudden they kind of ran up and they were so excited, because it's not like in other places. Nobody gives a damn about them down there, except for a few. $31. The other thing that's especially interesting with the work that Ruelas does down there is he helps homeless people that have dogs, and a lot of people kind of might feel some kind of way about that, but in some cases that's all these people have, right? And again, there's not the infrastructure to help them down there. So he'll make sure the person has, food for their dog. And some of these people are just better pet owners than others, and they'd rather feed their dog than feed themselves, which is kind of a beautiful thing. So this person going through and having a dog, that's their companion, because everyone else in their life has kind of abandoned them. And in some cases that's the difference between them being, victimized and stuff like that, because they have that dog with them. And so just kind of working in a less conventional way to help kind of solve that problem. In addition, he goes through and does the usual stuff of finding placements and stuff like that for them, which is really cool. That's 33, almost a third of the way there. this rig was set up, and it was built for about $50 or so from stuff from the hardware store. In this kind of breezeway, there's a stud there and a stud there. And so we just drilled into that and created a lip, and then used just a heavy-duty shelving bracket, and then built basically an I-beam out of some 2x4. $35. And this is, I don't know, maybe 8 feet or something like that. I'm around 200 pounds for about 90 kilos. This is plenty enough to support me. And this is just a 2x4 and a 2x4 that's like this. These rings are from Amazon for, I don't know, 40 bucks or something like that. So being able to set something like this up for yourself is a lot easier than you might think. With that, a couple kettlebells, maybe a gata, spit, right? Like you can kind of hit everything you need to. I have a similar one set up, Project Treadstone. This is a D2A HQ. And it's just nice to be able to democratize fitness. How do you go through and get that home set up? Everyone wants to be able to have a home gym, and money is always the thing. You don't need to go through and spend $2,000 on Rogue and squat racks and plates if you don't want to. It's 37. That's 40. The most I've done previously in one session was 87. So excited to be able to push this and obviously do it live so that it's all verifiable. There's nothing about me where I'm a natural athlete. This is just something that I built up to over time. And it's something that you easily can build up to over time as well. So there's nothing special about me, and anyone could do this. It just takes a plan. That's what we're trying to do with that Get Your First Muscle Up program, is just help other people be able to do the same thing. Muscle ups. I think I got my first one in like 2012, maybe 2011. And I remember just like being shocked because it seemed impossible. And at the time, it was really rare to see anyone doing them. And it's one of those things where once you can do it and you understand it, that there's just this mental hurdle, like a lot of things, and all of a sudden the floodgates are open. Reason you see me kind of apply more chalk periodically, the trick is to try to keep your skin dry. And so because I'm sweating a fair amount, because it was fairly warm here today, trying to make it so that my skin doesn't, anything that's in contact doesn't wind up sloughing. And then I wind up with big open wounds after, because I'm stubborn enough to just push through. It's 45. like to thank everyone that showed up to watch me suffer. And for everyone that offered their support. Pedro Bendito, he came in clutch with us today. Kate Stewart, thank you. Chuck Kane, appreciate y'all. I know there's a few that I'm missing. Appreciate everything you guys do. Muscle ups are something that anyone can learn. People think that body weight is kind of the domain of guys that are, smaller stature fella, 5'3" and 130 pounds or something like that. And although strength to weight ratio with guys like that is typically quite high, if you're a bigger guy, going through and doing body weight will actually benefit you a lot more than it will for smaller guys, because it is moving your body through space dynamically. And although I'm not huge, I'm long and lanky, I'm about 6'2", 6'3", but I'm around 200 pounds, right? So it's not like I'm built to be able to do this well or easily. It's just something where with the right program, knowing the things that you need to work on, it can easily be built. And because it's very much a skill, once you have it and you've kind of built them to a certain level, what I found with skills, was throwing knives or muscle ups, you can take a significant break and do very little to maintain it, and you can wind up maintaining 50% proficiency fairly easily. And in the situation of a muscle up where there's more strength and conditioning that's involved versus a skill like throwing a knife, once you've got to a point where you can do a few muscle ups in a row, or like the level of volume I'm doing right now, you could not touch them for 6 months, come back, it might not be super clean, but you'll still be able to pull one out. And by being able to kind of reactivate that skill, the conditioning will come back really fast. So if you do decide to do that, where you get your muscle up so you can do, 5 in a row or something like that, which is very doable, or, being able to do, an EMON at 20 or something, when you do decide to kind of come back to it, if you haven't touched it for 6 months or a year, just maybe start slow. But you'll very quickly have them come back. So that's 50, we're halfway there. So you're going to start hearing me using some pressurized breathing more now. at certain things. This is to allow me to lower the heart rate, recover my phosphate system faster, and to get a more specific contraction and a little more pop. So you hear me start using a type of thing. You'll hear that twice. You'll hear that with a pull of the bottom. Some of that lung infection. With a pull out of the bottom, and then with the Bulgarian dip. Go through, hit a little more of this hammer gel. This one is Montana Huckleberry. It tastes like the jam inside of the Viva Pups, if you're wondering. So the tape on my left isn't quite covering a spot on my wrist. So I'm going to go through and quickly touch that up just to make sure that we don't have any kind of issues. So one of the big things with future fitness is frequency is more important than duration. You can't injure yourself fast enough. So one of the things that'll come up is people will go through, they'll do something in a manner in which they are not fit to fight the next day. And so in the instance of these muscle ups, me going through and tearing my skin open so I can't go through and train tomorrow will definitely stagnate my process. So making sure that we don't do that is pretty important. So in this case, we're trying to make sure we don't tear that skin all the way up. Walk around like I got stick mod on my hands. Okay, that's 55. Is that 56? I don't know. I'll say it's 55. $58. $59. And this workout clock, I just got it off of Amazon. It was pretty cheap. It's like 30 bucks or something like that. Has a bunch of different features. And a remote, actually, it's pretty good. $60. So we're starting to already see it, getting a hot spot through this on the forearm. It's probably not going to show up well on camera, but if this rash guard wasn't here, I'd be ripping raw already. Okay, we're gonna have the rest of this fast-acting glucose. Got about a third left before we hit our goal. How many people are there from YouTube? We're pretty small. So 2? Please. 65, just shy of 2/3 of the way there. Home stretch. So as I start to slow down, it actually becomes harder because there's more time under tension. Versus in the beginning, I was able to rip hard and fast out of the bottom and kind of just float myself. So as we get further in, it's not only the number of reps, the time under tension starts to pile up. So we have to start digging deeper. So once you start getting more volume and stuff like that in there, you'll start feeling it. It's not just in the tricep, but it's actually in like the junction of the back of the elbow. Your brachialis, your smaller stuff. Brachialis is where it comes across on the outside, the pronator teres, this muscle on the inside of the elbow. Start getting kind of pumps in there. Stuff that you may not have noticed before. And it just takes a lot of that volume to really kind of start to stimulate the blood flow. That's 70. So especially in the elbow joint and stuff like that, where we're not used to seeing this type of volume, also in the rotator cuff, we'll want to go through and stimulate a lot of blood flow thereafter. So using stuff like Zengushu or some type of jowl. Dale has some good stuff like the hot hands he did specifically for me, increases circulation, things like that. We really want to look at how to pull that inflammation out, as well as force a lot of circulation with the healing factors. I can't stress this enough. This isn't something that you would do every week or anything like that. The volume's a lot. It's just kind of a gut check, kind of a benchmark to see if you can do it. If you train with something like this with this much volume all the time, it's going to probably cause you some overuse injuries. So just be aware of that and build up to it slowly. Take a plan. And when you start learning muscle ups, the limiting factor for it will probably be your skin. So if at any point you're set or your session that day, if you feel yourself starting to tear or blister, the slightest amount, stop, because that's kind of your warning. And if you proceed past that, you're going to rip yourself right open on the next one. I know because I've done it a bunch and I'm stubborn and stupid for it. And the problem with once you've torn yourself like that, it'll take weeks to heal. So then you have to take the time off of training, and that'll create further setbacks. Okay, we hit 75, 3/4 of the way there. So as we're starting to get fatigued or we get deeper into this, our stabilizers that we're using for this turnout, for that dip, for that press, they start to fatigue. So there's a certain amount of not overcompensating too much when we're ripping from the bottom and throwing myself too far forward so the stabilizers can't catch us. The other reason why we're pulling from the floor, so if I do have to fail, if I do fail, I'm not going to injure myself with a fall. So one of the things that we talk about in Fugitive Fitness is making sure that we're not doing something that can potentially cause us to be injured, right? What's the risk to reward? For me, I'm getting closer to 96 and further away from 26. So my ability to heal from an injury, right? Like if that causes me a year-long setback, right? Like how much time did I lose by not being able to train? How much progress did I lose? So going through and taking a measured approach and not going through and trying to risk it all for some type of weird PR, right? So we want to make sure we have that safety factor built into everything we're doing. And there's a few reasons for that, right? Unless your job is fitness, and even if it is, you injuring yourself in your training will detract from your lifestyle. It will detract from the thing that you're trying to be stronger for. Okay, that's 80. Only 2 sets of 10 left. And as much as I'd love to go through and give you all an extra program for free, everyone that's supported, I also want to hit my goal. So we win or we win, right? Okay, 83. So this is my personal best ever when we're doing the test up. So everything from here on in is a PR for me, going in uncharted territory. I want to thank everyone for being here and watching it, tuning in. Yeah, that's 85. 15 more to get the goal. Making sure we keep a nice thick coat of chalk so I don't get that damp skin from the sweat tearing. So from going through and locking my legs, I'm actually starting to kind of feel some work and some lactic acid building up my quads from pointing the toes. We're getting deep. Okay, that's 90. Got 10 more. Home stretch. As I'm going through and doing this, I'm looking at a 95-pound terrier mix that I got from a res. Sleep on his bed, and he just woke up to lick his chops. Thanks, Chestnut. It's 92. $93. $94. So I was going through and doing this on the 55 for the first little while. I switched now to doing it at the 50, so that way the final muscle up will be completed within the 100 minutes. I want to make sure that there's no naysayers that can come along and detract from what we're doing. Not that anyone does that on the internet. It's 95. $96. I shared a post in my story today, and it said something to the effect of, somebody's fit in their 20s, it can be for a lot of reasons. But if somebody's over 40 and they're fit, there's only one reason. It's discipline. And going through and grinding out 100 of these, it's not anything but discipline. It's not that I'm motivated. It's as boring for me to do it as it is for you to watch it. It's a grind. And making yourself do the boring things so you can do the really interesting things. 97. Buddy of mine's a JTAC, and him and I have had a lot of interesting conversations over the years. And one of the things that's come out of it is, in order to do the cool guy stuff, you got to do a lot of boring things to get there. It's a lot of dry fire work. It's a lot of rucks by yourself, short and heavy, long and light, just putting in a lot of work consistently over time. '98. One of the things that I think a lot about is cascading effect of choices. Your choice to smoke, your choice to whichever. And high school is a really interesting model where we all kind of finish at the same spot. I'll use fitness as an example. Everyone's got the same, spot as far as youth and ability to recover and make the gains that they want to. And then it's who smoked, who did drugs, who drank, how often, who went to the gym. So when you go back to your high school reunions, '99. And you go back to your 10-year, your 20-year, your 25-year high school reunions, you'll wind up seeing that effect in a way that's very punctuated. Who did the thing that they were supposed to, and who didn't, and to what degree. You can go through and fuel yourself on bologna sandwiches and Slurpees for 20 some years. You might be okay, but you probably won't be. But if you go through and just 80% of the time you hit the gym, 80% of the time you go through and work out, squeeze it in when you're on vacation. That's 100. Squeeze in that quick workout when you're on vacation. Going through and making sure you're not drinking so much that you can't drive. Limiting all that will have huge effects on where you're at. So we'll say that was about 15 seconds. So now with the 40, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do a few extra. The first one for King. It's 101. Second one's for Queen. So going through and doing those things consistently over time, doing the right things over time, whether it's with fitness or your finances or with your job or whatever, consistently over time, these effects build. Doesn't necessarily come all at once. It doesn't have to. For Queen, Freddie Mercury or Lorena, you pick. And that's all this is. It's just building it up slowly over time, doing the right thing. A lot of my workouts are 15 minutes, usually not more than 30. What is it we're doing consistently over time? That one was for the core. 103. Third and 4. And now that I'm at the goal of 100, I'm just going to keep going until I fail, or until we hit 125, whichever comes first. $105. Checking the battery life on my phones here, making sure they're good to go. $106. $107. 108. I actually start to feel myself tearing underneath this tape. You can see where bands are rubbing on my forearms. $909. And Diamond Palm, Dean, if you're watching this, I'll make you a deal. You send me a video live of you doing 125, and I'll send $125 donated to from myself to what Ruelis is doing, in addition to everything we've already done. It's got to be live though. $110. Got 15 more left unless I fail early.
Real dad bought fish and he's throwing $125 just for people.
Pedro Bendito, he's a real one. $111. $112. Only 13 more to go. 113. There's that grind. Oh, heck yeah. 114. Delta 2 Alpha is going to have a bunch of stuff going on in 2025 and starting up in the fall with some exclusive drops and things like that. There's going to be a lot of it's going to go only through our email list. So head over there and make sure you sign up for the email list. It's free. I'll also be sending out some exclusive content there because I'm tired of having to compete against the algorithm against beautiful 20-somethings that are wearing nothing. $115, 10 to go. $116. $117. 118, 7 to go. There's a guy on Instagram, the real Burpee King is his account, and the guy is Hispanic. Tell he used to be a banger. What's said, I don't know. Spent some time in California jail. And his entire account is just him doing burpees. Can't stop, won't stop. And if you go in the comments, you get two things. You get people hating on him because he's just doing this thing that's really simple. $119. But simple doesn't mean easy. And the guy is almost at 1,500 days uninterrupted. And you watch him move, and you look at his size and his physique, his condition. It's clearly something that he's done. So simple doesn't mean it doesn't work. Simple doesn't mean it's not effective. And simple doesn't mean easy. So the other half, the people you've seen as comments, are talking about what an inspiration he is. And he's got that discipline, that grind. He's got that dog in him. He's just too stubborn to stop. $120. We got 5 more. And all what he's doing is demonstrating is consistency, discipline. Frequency is more important than duration. He doesn't necessarily do long hour sets. He just does his sets every day. He maybe does really long sets, I don't know. Because the way he moves and the number he can do in a row, it's just nice to watch. But it's not exciting. It's kind of boring. And he more or less just does that. Probably some pull-ups too. That's about it. $121. $122. $123. 124. $125. The iconic words of Molotov. Viva Meco Cabrones.